Well, welcome to the Hope Chronicles on Monday, the 11th of May. And at these times, as we're thinking about what comes next for the church, as restrictions are eased, what will the church look like in the future, and how can the church grow in times of austerity, in times of restriction, in times of limitations on what we can do as a church? You might be forgiven for thinking that, the hope of the growth of the church is in mission boards, mission agencies. Perhaps if we focused really heavily on missionary societies, then the hope that we would have is that they would work hard and that they would increase this Christian family that we so joyfully belong to. Or maybe it's large evangelistic campaigns. Maybe if we have someone in the guise of Billy Graham that will travel the world and have these great big rallies, then maybe we'll see a big return of people to the church. Perhaps it's super cool churches. That's what we need. Churches that are really hip, that really connect with the community. And if we changed all of our churches to be a hipster, that we would really engage with the younger community and we would build our Christian family. Maybe, in fact, it's just to do what we're doing and do a bit more clever marketing of the gospel. Maybe that's the way. Maybe it's what we already have, but perhaps we present it in a more savvy way. Well, I've been reviewing this past week Acts in the Church of England between Easter and Ascension Day. We really study Acts. We put a lot of time into reading through the Acts, and I've been daily conducting a Bible study for myself in Acts, and something really stands out to me. And it's wherever we see Paul travel, he arrives somewhere and it says the brothers and sisters took care of him. He comes to a port, the brothers and sisters came and they knelt with him and they prayed with him. Pretty much everywhere Paul goes, there seems to be a small gathering of Christians already there. And I ask myself, how did that happen? The great evangelist, the Apostle Paul, hasn't been there yet. Peter hasn't probably been there yet. How is it that all over the place there are these little pockets of Christians? And even when Paul arrives in Italy, in 3 places, he finds small groups of Christians to welcome him and to care for his needs. Well, I can tell you that I don't believe it was through major evangelistic events. Well, in fact, I'm sure of that. And it wasn't through super cool, relevant Christian fellowship that they were offering. It wasn't through organized mission. They didn't have any of that. What we find in these days, and Luke writes Acts about AD 60, AD 62, probably towards the end of Paul's first imprisonment in Rome. What we can find when we look back into church history is that people who understood the gospel and who moved out from Israel simply did this: they gossiped the gospel over a meal at the town gates. They just chattered and gossiped the gospel. And it spread like wildfire. They didn't have any particular format of giving the gospel. They weren't formally trained. But what they did is wherever they went, they gossiped the gospel. And that's how, when Paul arrives in all of these places, people are already there as Christians. They may not yet be a church, but they're gathered together and they have the same hope, the same faith. These are people who came to Jerusalem and Galilee, and were there trading or on business or seeing family, and somebody gossiped the gospel to them. And then they returned home and they gossiped the gospel to someone else, who gossiped the gospel to someone else. I'm sure that some of these people who picked up the gospel were Roman soldiers that took this message back to Rome and to other parts of the Roman Empire and gossiped the gospel. So in our day, I think we can follow that same model. Yes, there's a variety of outreach tools that we can use to reach our world with the message of the love and the hope of the Lord Jesus Christ. But the most profound way is when we have that faith and we're on our doorstep and we're in the line at the supermarket and we're at the train station and we're at the gates of our city, that we just gossip, we chatter the gospel, we talk about Jesus. Have you heard about Jesus? Have a guess what my church did this last weekend? Let me tell you something about the life change that's occurred in me this last year. So I want to really encourage each one of us, find places in these next months to gossip the gospel, and let's see what God will do with that. The Lord bless you and keep you and make his face shine upon you.